People online. I'm impressed that some of you who are here on Sunday and might be here for the retreat starting tomorrow are still here on Monday night. That's inspiring to me. Roshi Kapleau, Fred, my first teacher, once was invited to give a talk at MIT, and he went to MIT, big Dharma talk, famous place, and 3 people showed up for his talk. And one of them turned out to be John Kabat-Zinn, who transformed meditation and Buddhism in this country. So every time you're talking to people, you never know who you're talking to. You never know what effect someone might have on you or you on them. So every talk is important. Now, I thought I would just share a little bit, partly disregarding Fred's advice, but I'm going to. So I ended up in in the teacher seat when I was about 50. I've been practicing since I was 20, so 30 years I had been practicing hundreds of retreats. And then I began teaching 20, 25 years ago or so. And I kept looking at my mind and I kept looking at the people's minds around me. And I really came to the conclusion after a while that we all have fixed beliefs in our hearts, in our minds, fixed beliefs, fixed ideas, fixed notions about the way things are from wherever they come. And so I began getting really curious. Well, the nature of mind is it's free, it's completely obvious, it is totally available. And yet we often feel stuck, we feel limited. And so in looking at that stuckness, that limited in the boundless space of freedom, well, where's it come from? So one of the things I began looking at was fixed beliefs. What kind of fixed beliefs do we have about ourselves and the world? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the approach that I've used to work with fixed beliefs, but a little bit of foundation about Dharma, which probably will be second nature to all of you, given your histories. First thing in practicing, as you know, is to have a clear intention, clear aspiration for awakening. Aspiration for awakening to see things as whole, as complete, as one, to see things as naturally unfolding, to see that the Dharma is just like nature. It comes forth freely of its own accord. And that fundamentally things are in harmony. Just have an aspiration to see and know that for oneself. Now, I like to say in Buddhism, certainly in Zen Buddhism, there is no dogma. There's no dogma. It's all based on direct observation. So we have an intention to know the truth, an intention to see things as they are, and then we try to really look directly, through our particular beliefs, through our particular delusions, illusions, confusions. Secondly, we need to have confidence. I was at a tea ceremony one time with my teacher, one of my teachers, Shoto Harada Roshi, who's a Rinzai teacher in Japan. And we were at this fancy, very formal Japanese tea ceremony, and I didn't know what I was doing. And, I was kind of sitting there watching it. And he turned over to me and he said, above all, just be confident. And I've always remembered that. Just be confident. Just be confident. And so we have to have confidence that we will awaken, because we are only interested in seeing the nature of reality. And of course, who can't see the nature of reality? Reality is, of course, right in front of us. To have confidence in our own capacity to really discover that. Now, confidence, mindfulness, diligence, curiosity, all the 7 factors, everything else is, of course, important. But intention and confidence, and then walking the path. Now, as I began thinking about and looking at the issue of fixed ideas, I looked at a number of different teachers. And one year I was feeling a little stuck, and I was feeling like I needed to have some kind of fresh perspective. So I went to the Western Buddhist Teachers Conference, which was only for transmitted people who are actively teaching Dharma. And I was looking around saying, who is here that I can learn from? And I encountered a guy named Dan Brown. Dan Brown is he was Mahamudra Dzogchen Western guy who taught at Harvard for 35 years. And I began doing some retreats with Dan. And one day, Dan said to me, he said, okay, as you go forward, drop all your fixed ideas about who you are, what awakening is, what's going to happen in the future, what you have to do that, how it's going to look. Drop them all. And somehow that really hit me that day. So where do our fixed ideas come from? I began looking at that. Now, the first thing to me is really fascinating is that our brain is in a little black box. It's sitting up there and it just has all these neural electrical impulses. It has no contact with what we call reality out there. All it is just a receptor of energy. So when we are touching the floor right now, if anybody touches something, what are you feeling? What are you feeling when you touch your leg with your hand? What are you feeling? Firm, warmth. It's not a trick question. The bottom of your hand. So there's no nerve endings in the floor, in the cloth. There's no nerve endings in the things that we're feeling. There's no nerve endings. All we're feeling is we're feeling our hand, right? We're feeling our hand. So everything we touch, we're feeling our hand. We're just feeling the electrical impulses, the movement of electrons, presumably, that are transmitted into the brain. The brain then filters them, organizes them, and creates what we call warmth, pressure, touch, floor. That happens with all the six senses. So we look out into a room like this. The eye, the seeing, and the seen are one thing. So you're only aware of your own quivering energy, of all the millions of photons that are coming into your eye. Your eye your macula filters them, the brain filters them in some way. It creates this visual image. We're only seeing our own mind. We're only feeling our own hands. We're only seeing our own mind. And as we'll work with this next week, we think of sound, we think of that there's somehow vibration going through the air that hits the tympanic membrane, that goes through the middle ear and go to the optic nerve and so on. But all we're actually aware of is perhaps the quivering at the tympanic membrane. You can't feel anything but the quivering of the tympanic membrane in the subsequent. So everything that we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch is us. Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, and smell, and think is our mind. We don't see anything else. But of course, we all have lots of fixed ideas about things being out there. So does that seem reasonable? Does that make sense? That this brain's in a black box and gets all this input, which is just basically neural input of one sort or another, and voila, the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so in a way, we create the world. And again, I just keep, every time I doubt that, I just go back to my hands and I say, am I feeling anything other than my own hand? Am I feeling anything other than my own hand? Anything, anything, anything other than my own hand? No. What happens when I'm feeling this? It's curious. So we've got this direct experience, which we can all verify. It's not as though there's something we have to, we can all look and see that for ourselves if we look clearly at it, that everything is intimate. Everything. And everything is so intimate that it's experienced right here, if you're from one view, right here. Very, very, very close. I just find that fascinating, you know? And I find I just want to, well, it's so so different than the model of the world that I grew up with. I keep wanting to verify it and check it and see, is that really true? Is that really true? Is that really true? Thus far, I haven't found any way of getting outside of the box to find out. So that's one little piece there. Now, let's just put that on hold for a moment and let's look at the issue of time. Now, we all are aware of, all the present moment teachings and everything else, but can you experience anything other than the present moment? Anybody can experience 10 minutes ago? Anybody experience tomorrow? Of course not. Of course not. All we can experience is right now. It's not as though we have to practice being mindful and practice, I'm going to experience right now. I'm going to not. That's all you can experience. Assuming that's experience. So we create the world, it's all in this moment. And it all is in constant motion, Number one truth of Dharma, constant motion. Now, I was always interested in that piece because impermanence is sort of one of the catchword. But here's an experiment that I think is really interesting, and you might find it helpful. Close your eyes and look at the visual field when your eyes are closed. The visual field is completely operable whether your eyes are open or closed. Look at the visual field when your eyes are closed. What do you see? It's not a rhetorical question. What do you see? My intimate audience of 10, what do you see? Okay, so residual effect of a light. Okay, that will fade, of course. What do you see? You're the world's leading expert on what you see. Can't go wrong. Look closely. What do you see? Little red specks. What else? Who else sees something? Okay, so greenish field, reddish black around it, in some motion. Anybody else? What do you see? Little specks of moving white. Okay, Bill is up there on the job. Okay, if anybody online wants to say something, please do what you need to do. Bill is up there looking alertly and mindfully in the present moment and is totally responsive to everything that comes through that magnificent machine he's looking at. Darkness. Darkness is a common thing people say, but look into the darkness. Now, a basic teaching, which you can verify for yourself, is everything is made up of something else. What is darkness made up of? Everything is made up of something else. We can pretty much confirm that with anything we can point to, anything we can think of. It's made up of something else. What is darkness made up of? Look into it. Light and movement. In the darkness, there is light. In the light, there is darkness. So when we're looking carefully in with the eyes closed, the visual field is completely active. We can still see, and people have different phenomena that they see. Now, that phenomena, if you look at it carefully, is in motion. It's not static. So if you're seeing little white dots or snow or fuzz or anything of that nature, you'll see, if you look at it carefully, it's in constant motion, flickering on and off. It goes nowhere. It does not move, and yet it's in constant motion. You can see that directly. The whole world is quivering and flowing just like that. Because all you're seeing is from one view, is the nervous system just quivering, awake, quivering in the present moment. Now, confirm this. This is just my part of my little investigation journey. Confirm it for yourself. If it's not true, I'm happy to hear anything else. Let's take it in a couple of steps. First off, everything that we think about the past, we know in the present. The past is a memory which we have looking at, remembering, generating right now. We think about earlier today, and what is it? It's a thought. We have a memory. We have a memory of being in our car, or a memory of being on our unicycle, or a memory of being on our bus, or a memory of being on our skateboard, or whatever the memory is. We have a memory of the past in the present, right? We have a memory, we have a projection. The way the brain works is it is constantly projecting. So even with a simple sentence like avocado, we're projecting, even with a simple sentence like this, but when we get avocado, the brain has projected, had anticipated something else, and so it's avocado. Makes no sense. The nature of the brain in the present moment is to generate memories of the past, make predictions for the future in the present moment. Future is an idea. We can't experience the future, right? The past is gone. We can't experience it. This is not a philosophy. This is just, can you experience it? You can't experience breakfast yesterday, or lunch yesterday, or dinner yesterday. It's gone. And yet, in this moment, there is a richness, a texture that this moment is not just a simple note. This moment is rich and deep and connected and has many interweavings. One of the things I read, I do not know this from my own experience because I don't have much of a musical ear, is that part of what makes music so rich for some people is that there are kind of traces of the previous sounds that all are kind of come like a wave into the present moment. So the present moment is rich and deep because it has depth because of that. So it's all intimate. It's all us. It's all in motion. It's all in the present moment. Now, let's assume that that's all true. Well, that doesn't mean that we're lumps and logs. Of course, if we were thinking that this was a thing, this is a teaching, then the obvious conclusion is you'd be a nothing, you'd be a lump. And yet, it's always in motion, always, always, always. So each one of us we get up in the morning and we make choices. We get up in the morning and we choose coffee or tea or orange juice or nothing or whatever we choose. We choose. We're constantly responding to circumstances. Constantly we're responding. We get up in the morning and we respond to the circumstances of the morning, and we brush our teeth, or we go to the toilet, or we put on clothing, or we eat. We're constantly responding in this moment, constantly responding, constantly responding, constantly responding. Each one of us is constantly responding to the circumstances, to the collection of impulses, data, energy, whatever we want to call it, of this moment. We are responsive beings. We're alive. And that responsiveness itself in this moment is our life. Check it out. Now, I'm actually getting to what I was going to start talking about. This is all leading up to the theme of tonight's talk. So, if we look around this room or any other room, we would not mistake one person for another. Because each of us have respond to our particular circumstances, our particular world, which we just, which is based on our perception, differently and uniquely. Each of us has an aspiration inside. Each of us has a calling, a vow, an intention inside. Now, the way I think about that is if we look carefully at the nature of thought. Sitting here, eyes are closed, turn the mind off for a minute, and you watch thought arise. It just pops in, my experience. And it pops in, and sometimes it goes pop, 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 pop. And sometimes it just goes pop, pop. This popping of the nature of our mind, this popping of idea, this popping of thought, this particular popping that arises out of nowhere and is unique and is personal and is intimate. In a way, we could say that's our particular karmic strand, burden. But it has a direction to it. It has a direction. It has a direction towards, it comes out of wholeness, out of the mystery, out of the unknown. I'll get to that in just a moment. Pop. And that popping, that thing that emerges from nowhere, that thing that emerges from the great mystery, that which just emerges, thought just emerges. If you look at it carefully, you have to be able to turn your mind off a little bit in order to see that. If your mind is a constant stream and you can't, and you're kind of, rolling in the surf, it's hard to see. But when you turn the mind off for a little while, you can watch the thoughts. They have space in them, and they have space around them, and they have space, and they come from space, and they go to space, and they arise from nowhere, and they go to nowhere, and they have direction. They have a particular intention. I like to call that intention the heart's aspiration, the heart's vow. Everything that we do, in a way, has a direction to it, has a calling to it. Even what we think of as random thoughts, if we look deeply into them, we begin to see there's a direction. That's a whole other topic. So now we're present. We begin to look a little bit at the nature of thought. We begin to look at the constructed nature of the world, the constructed nature of this body. Now, an interesting piece about the constructed nature of the body is we have ideas about the shape of our body. Now, if you close your eyes, you go into and feel both hands at the same time, both legs at the same time. You feel your breath at the same time. You hear my voice, the sound at the same time. You feel the pressure of the cushions on your body at the same time. You feel it all at the same time. It becomes totally shapeless. We only feel the particular shape of our body when we particularize. But when we're feeling the whole thing all at once with a mind that is still and big and inclusive, we enter the realm of the formless nature of reality. The formless nature of reality directly. Not some fancy thing, it's just very direct. When we're not holding a picture of ourself in our mind, we somehow can enter that inclusive nature of mind, which is formless. In the present, dynamic, alive, direct, available for all of us. One last little piece. So we've got this foundation. Now, things pop into our mind. According to our particular karma, our particular history, our particular education, our particular background, things just pop into our mind. Things pop into our mind. Things pop into our mind. When an idea pops into our mind that we like, when an idea pops into our mind that we agree with, when an idea pops into our mind that kind of meets our particular criterion, which is based on former karma, we tend to grab a hold of it, reify it, make it into a story. When we touch the nature of our life without a story, it is free-flowing, it has direction, it is dynamically alive, very vibrant. But when we start putting stories on, that's great, I love stories. We start putting stories on and we begin believing them, thinking, this is, I'm really Emma. This is the way it is. 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 According to me, according to my story, then our mind becomes a little hardened, a little friable, or at best, or it becomes sort of dense. It becomes coagulated. And then we begin to, instead of resting in the free-flowing, natural state of the vibrant nature of our own life, we begin to be caught up in the coagulation of our thoughts. Literally our thoughts, literally how we think about things. That instead of allowing thought just to emerge and disappear, unless we need to use it, in which case it emerges, we use it, solve the problem, and let it disappear. Instead, it emerges, we grab a hold of it, we make it into a story, and make it into a story, and make it into a story, and make it into a story. And we have all these stories about who we think we are and who we think we were. And our great uncle who dropped us on our head when we were kids, who dropped this on the head and broke it or something. And so we stop living in the direct immediacy of the reality of our freedom. And instead, we begin taking a step back from that and living into our ideas about our ideas about the world, our ideas about our partner, our ideas about ourselves, our ideas about everything. And so we no longer are responsive. Instead, we're meeting things with fixed opinion. Fixed opinion. And we all do it, of course. That's just the way we grew up. So that's where I got interested. This is the place this is all leading to. Is I began looking at my own mind, and I began thinking, okay, well, I really feel that that's wrong, and this is right, and those people are not doing right, and if only they would agree with me. And I really began looking at it, and I turned my awareness around and said, well, why? Where do those ideas come from? Why do I think I'm right? Why do I think my view is the correct view? Because I feel like, so I began looking at my own mind and realizing, oh, my rigidity, my inflexibility, the places that my partner grumbles about, the places that are unresponsive, are because I'm not paying attention to reality. Instead, I'm now paying attention to the stories, to the narrative, to the fixed ideas, to the fixed beliefs in my own mind. So I began getting curious. Well, how do you work with those? How do you recognize those? And then what do you do with them? So in looking at my life, looking around, I'm always kind of curious what I can learn from people. In the 4 Bodhisattva vows, one of the vows is the Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to keep investigating them. I vow to investigate them. And one of my friends sent me a book by Byron Katie. I read it. I said, this is really good. I really like this, because she was talking about the nature of mind. And of course, we really like the things that agree with us. So, what she said agreed with me. So I said, good, agreed with me. But I had the good fortune of writing, I wrote to, actually I got the book in the afternoon. I was listening while I was driving my car to California. I sat down in the hotel room that night. I wrote them a letter of invitation to come to Great Vow. And fortunately, her husband is Stephen Mitchell. And Stephen was a Dharma heir of Sungsan Sanim, the Korean Zen teacher. And Stephen has done lots of long retreats and done lots of prostrations, and he really knows what practice is like. He really knows that. And we kind of recognize one another. So I had this very lovely conversation with him over these years. And Katie came to Oregon, did her thing there. I went to several of her trainings. And it's a very simple one. Very simple. And it's basically an inquiry into truth. What really is true? So, we start off with, we're feeling this. And, as we did right from the beginning, we say, I'm feeling this table. Is it true? Well, now on the surface, of course. But as we look into it more and more deeply, there's some question. I'm only feeling my own hand. I'm only feeling what's in my own brain. Is it really true that I'm feeling something out there? Well, there's some doubt, some question about my fixed idea about even such a thing as this. Not that it's wrong, but just a little pinprick. So then I began looking at my ideas about awakening. Okay, awakening experience should look like this. It should have these qualities. These are the qualities. Is that true? Is that really true? Is it really true? Is it really true that I'm right? Is it really true? Is it really true? And I began looking with Katie's method of what all the things that I think of are true. I just began questioning them. Never hurts to question anything. You can question anything with an open mind. A person with a closed mind is afraid to look at that. And so, as you all know, there are some religious traditions that really squash curiosity. They don't really investigate. But this is Dharma. This is Buddhism. And Buddhism, we're interested in the truth. We're not interested in what somebody says about it. We're interested in, I want to know it. I want to know it myself. I want to feel it. I want to have it be a part of my bones. So as a Dharma practitioner, we have the ability to be curious and to investigate about anything. Is it true? Is it really true? Now, because I'm a person of Dharma, I love the questions like, am I a human being? Is it really true? Am I a man? Is it really true? Am I alive? Is it really true? I love these really deep existential questions. That's where I get my excitement. Katie starts off with, is it true that my uncle dropped me on my head when I was a teenager, and says, is that true? And looks at all the stories from our past and says, are these stories that we grew up with that were really about who we thought we were, are they really true? Yes or no? Nothing's riding on it. Nothing's riding on it except our own belief structure. And then she said, well, okay, what if it wasn't true? What if it wasn't true that this thing is a solid rock? What if there's more truth than that? What if it actually was, maybe this was true and, 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 and. And we begin to find that when we're looking carefully, our mind can become really soft and open because we think, okay, this is true, but what else might be true? How else might it be seen? I think it's very fascinating to, when all of us have traveled and been around lots of places. And every single person we meet feels that the world through their eyes is the way it is. Everybody. All of you do, all of us do. And they don't agree. So it's not as though I'm right and they're wrong, or they're right and I'm wrong, but what else is true? What else is true? What else is true? What else is true? What other view can I take? How big can I make my mind? For Katie's official work, we do a workshop every January. Right now, we've done like 4 or 5 of them. 4 questions and turnarounds. The 4 questions are: is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? If you believe something is true, if you actually believe it, well, how does it affect your way you live? If you believe that, um, for lack of a better, people who have hell's angels are bad, if you believe that, well, how does it affect you? How do you begin treating people when you encounter them if they fall into that category in your mind? Or if you believe that the air should always be clean and clear, well, that's okay. But how does that affect you when you come out to the reality of there's smog? What does that do to your own mind when you encounter something that does not accord with your belief? Just interesting to see, Because if things don't accord with our belief, often we get reactive to them. We begin to push on them. There's friction. And then the 4th of her questions is, well, what if you didn't believe that? Now, from a Dharma perspective, what I do is I say, look, if your mind is completely still, and that is not the fundamental nature of mind, fundamental nature, if you look carefully and deeply, you find that there is stillness and space and silence at the root. And it permeates everything, but at the root. So I'm always really interested in, what if you go to the fundamental stillness of mind? What's true right then? How does it all look then? It's worth investigating, worth being curious about. If we don't know that fundamental stillness of mind, we can't make the mind be still. You can say, all right, mind, be still, shut up. That does not work. The only way we can do it is with a metacognitive awareness that is one with, that is ever more intimate with the breath and with the body, until there's no separation. And when there's no separation, and we begin to know there is no other, and when there is no other, then there is life. Hmm. I'm just zipping through here. This is decades of material if you want. But any comments or questions, insights, objections, advice? Something I say not ring true? Let's examine it. In the Pali Canon, the Buddha would be asked a question, and it says in the Pali Canon that he would always consent with silence. That silence was his way of saying yes. So I'm attributing your silence to saying yes. True or not, I don't know. Let's explore this a little bit more, because there are many different iterations of many different perspectives we can look at. The place that so let's just forget all that we just talked about. And let's come back to right here, what our ordinary thinking mind is. And we just start off with, well, how much do I actually know about what's going on right now? How much do I actually know about what's going on right now? What's on the other side of my hand? You don't know. Hope it's, the things we normally expect, but you don't know. Is your car still outside? Do you know for sure your car is still outside? Yeah, I certainly hope it is. The probability is 99% that it is, but you don't know. You can't really know for sure. So we look, what is below the surface of this lovely room? We have ideas. I built lots of buildings. I know how they're built, but we don't really know. How does your heart work? How does your blood circulate? We have, a certain level of physiology that we have carefully developed, but we always get to a place of, I don't know. What's going to happen tomorrow? We have probabilities, of course. That's how we live. We live by probability, but we don't know. Where do these thoughts come from? I don't know. If we look at what we actually know and we look profoundly into what we actually know, and we look everything that we think that we know, we just say, is it really true? Do I really, really, really know that? Do I really know that I'm alive? How do I know that I'm alive? What are the symptoms of being alive? Is it movement? The fact that I'm moving, if I'm lying absolutely still, am I still alive? Am I alive if I have consciousness? What about the time if I go to sleep and I'm not conscious? Am I still alive then? What if I go under anesthesia and I'm no longer conscious and suddenly there's that big gap from here to here and that whole middle piece? Was I alive during that middle piece when there was no awareness? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And we begin to look really carefully. The world is a mysterious place. What are we going to encounter the next time we go around the corner? I'm always interested when I go to a new place. I was telling Fred and Angie, they were showing me places. They say, look, if you're in a new place, the traffic is interesting. The trash is interesting. The cars are interesting. They're all interesting. I have no idea of what they should be. You haven't habituated to anything. If you really don't know, the world becomes a place of really fascination. Now, it's not as though we practice and we acknowledge we don't know, and the result is that we just become ignorant blobs. So, well, I don't know. But rather, it is the world becomes a place of curiosity. The world becomes a place of of interest. Taking this one step further, we have ideas about what's good for us. What's good for me, my little being. I define and defend my own personal territory, and I know it's good for my own personal territory. But what if beyond our ken, the world were actually a place of interbeing? What if the world were actually a place of oneness? What if everything affected everything else? What if everything was a great mystery and everything that came towards us was actually part of that great mystery, and everything that came toward us had a wisdom to it, and everything came toward us was our job only to be responsive to it? Out of total presence, out of total mystery, out of recognizing the nature of self, out of seeing the nature of mind, out of watching the dynamic movement of life, everything that comes towards us, everything is part of the movement of the whole. And the whole is inherently, from every perspective I can think of, inherently good, so to speak. What if everything that came toward us, our job was to breathe it in, to be with it, with the mystery, and just to respond appropriately, dynamically, engage, letting go of our fixed ideas about how things should be? What if? So as I said at the beginning of this, as far as I'm concerned, there is no dogma in Dharma. There's just curiosity and just investigation, just looking directly and seeing can you verify for yourself is true? Because who cares whether somebody else has verified it, It does mean, might encourage you to say, yep. If you look carefully, you're going to find some really interesting things. I guarantee it, according to my experience. But we want to verify it for ourselves. So I just have done this little tiny sketch of kind of the nature of mind in the way that I've looked at some of Byron Katie's work or some of the other work that I've done. And, it boils down to what else is true. And everything is important. And my job is to be alert, alive, and respond to it. Do I have anything to respond to tonight? Questions, comments, objections? I have to fill my allocated time. So if I don't have something to fill my allocated time with, I'm deficient.
While you're talking, in trying to understand, a picture came up to me, or a memory came up for me of in my earlier times. You should. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's up front here, Angie. Yeah, I thought it was going to be very short so I could repeat it, but no, it's got to be. Here we go, starting from the beginning again in my mind.
Okay. When you were talking about responding, yeah, I can hear me in here, so I know I'm on.
Great. All is well. All is well.
So, the idea of responding, my picture or memory was when I was younger and lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. I loved to go out in the ocean. And the minute you talked about responding, the way I got responding was kind of a kinesthetic, what happens to my body when I'm in the ocean and there are waves. And I'm not thinking, I'm not trying to figure out. My body is automatically adjusting and, responding to the waves in order to maybe stay afloat. Oh, in order to just stay afloat.
Yeah, that's example.
And I just like that idea of not having to know how to respond. Maybe if I just let go, maybe I will naturally respond to whatever comes in.
Sounds like a nice idea. Now, it's important to not negate the learning and conditioning and life experience that's part of your whole being right now. So your response to circumstances comes out of your whole being. You're not going to respond like Fred's going to respond. You're going to respond like you respond, because that's the whole culmination of your life is present right here, right now. And so when you're responding with that. So it's not as though there's some kind of neutral thing, but each of us has this full and complete body-mind that we're responding with. And we don't have to even think about it. It's just part of who we are at that point. You know? The other piece, which I've already forgotten, is forgotten. Thank you. Thanks for saying that. Anybody else?
Angie bowing in.
Angie bowing. I love Angie bowing. My heart always is open when I see Angie bowing in.
Yeah, what struck me when you were talking that word responding and the way you describe it was, yeah, it feels it's not judgmental. I mean, there's discernment, but it feels, rather than something I don't like or something that shouldn't be, it has a feeling of, arising, respond, more like responding to, whatever causes and conditions and whatever is appearing, just responding in as wise, discerning way as we can, but there's not all the emotional resistance, should be happening, shouldn't be happening, anger, all of those afflictive emotions don't have to be there. It just is what it is, like I think
Sometimes
you're
they are.
saying. Yeah, thank you.
The other piece, what I was going to say, is that from our vantage point, the universe is inherently good. The universe is inherently creative. Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch has come forth out of the great mystery. Everything is a gift. Everything is an offering. Everything has that inherent creativity to it. And because our view is limited, often when something hits us, we can't see the ramifications because the ramifications are always so broad. You think, is World War II good or bad? Well, horrible, horrible, horrible. And what else is true? And the life that we're living right now is a secondary cause of that. So inherently, there is a kindness, a goodness to the universe. Now, the universe was made. If we were born, we were going to die. That's the way it's made, right? So this does not negate that. It means, it doesn't say how you're going to die. It doesn't say when you're going to die. It doesn't say, who's going to do it or what's going to happen. Was it a bacteria or a gunshot? It doesn't say anything like that. It says, if you are born, the natural, normal way is that you will die. And you'll die in little bits and pieces like that, or you will finally have a demise. The other piece of that is we will never know death. Personally, we will never know death. So don't have to worry. That's a whole other thing, but it's true. Anybody else? Mr. Fred, Brother Fred?
Yeah, just I'm trying to hear you as somebody who's not used to hearing you, what you're saying, and I just wonder, I mean, in a certain way, one can listen to what you say, and it sounds like a classic neurotic who is just endlessly questioning, is this true? 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 Am I absolutely sure it's true? That can certainly, so like, where does that, there's got to be a place where something begins to happen. It's not an endless neurotic questioning of everything. So I just want to clarify, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I also wonder if you could talk about just the role of discernment in life, because it could also sound like, everything's inherently good, everything's inherently perfect, everything is wonderful. You understand.
Yeah.
So I just, so there is an end game, there is a process, that the questioning leads to. It's just not an endless neurotic questioning. And also, there is also, I would say, a place for kind of yes, but yes, everything is inherently perfect, everything is coming forth just as it is, and yet, so just,
Good.
just
Excellent.
anticipating, people. Just
Great question. Yeah, that is the sometimes we get young people who are just concerned with saying the right thing, and they are so tongue-tied. They're just trying to plan out what they're going to say and trying to predict how everybody's going to respond to them. And they try to, and you ask them a question and you get this, that doesn't work very well. So that obviously is that the foundation of that is they think they can control other people, or they think they can somehow manipulate other people to looking at them in the way they want to be looked at. My time is about up, so that's, yeah. I figure the universe is saying, Hogen, enough hot air, that's it. Let me just address this. Let me just address this piece. I am sure that's true. Yes, you can relax. So it's helpful to look at this when we get stuck. We're not stuck. We just keep functioning. We just keep doing the best we can. We just have our heart open. Life is flowing. We just engage. And when we get stuck, then it's worth turning that inquiring mind in that way on. But, if I was trying to say, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Well, first off, everything I say is not true. That's easy. Everything I say is just sort of partially true. It's sort of a way. Don't have to worry about it anymore. But for a mature human being, we have to have a sense of what's important to us, what is that heart's aspiration I was talking about a little bit, and then to meet each of our particular challenges with that heart's aspiration so we can, meet it with skill. And what does skill mean? Skill means, is the way we meet it tend toward wholeness? Does it tend toward harmony? Does it tend toward being effective? Does it tend toward minimizing suffering, or at least diminishing, not increasing suffering, but decreasing suffering? Does it feel good to the heart? And is it intelligent? So that kind of discernment, in order to have that, the mind has to have clarity, you have to have some real emotional maturity, and you have to really know yourself. And you make mistakes. Hallelujah, you make mistakes, because otherwise you'd be insufferable. So don't be insufferable. What Fred's asking is a whole, he again, 42 Dharma talks about this, so listen to what he says is more important. You want to say something?
Has a question, if anybody online has a question, just raise your hand and Bill will
Fred says to raise your virtual hand or your virtual thumb, and Bill will be on the job instantly and repeat that to us. In the meantime, Rosie has something to say.
I don't know. It's just when you're talking, I don't know exactly what you're saying, but the visual that just came to my mind was just going through the life, and as things come, just making myself more fluid. And the image was just like, as my children or anyone I interact with, instead of having my fixed body just dissolving and letting it pass. I know it doesn't make sense. It's very hard for me to explain what image came in my mind, but it also reminded me of the 3 fears mantra that Fred teaches about allowing, what was that? The second one, just whatever has to happen, let it happen, and just staying in that wonder or like.
Great, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you for. I think rather than saying that it's just fluid, we just think we become more skillful, that we're flowing with more skill. And so hopefully as we become mature adults, we have more skill. We're flowing skillfully. We're not lost in the ocean in the surf, but we're able to surf better. Thank you all very much for your time this evening. Thanks, Brother Fred and Angie, for being our wonderful hosts. and we're always, always happy to come see them. So I wish everyone well. And if there's any merit and if there's any benefit that comes from our conversation this evening, our talk this evening, may it please be shared with whoever it's appropriate for.
So again, deep bow on behalf of our community. I see the ones in the hall. I don't know who's online, but we've all deeply appreciated you sharing your wisdom.
You don't know that, Fred.
What?
You don't know that.
I don't know if that's really true, but still, like you said, I still say it.
You're just saying
It
stuff.
just spontaneously arises and it's meaningless. So I live in both at the same time.
All right,
Okay?
I think that's fair.
Just a reminder that there will not be meditation Tuesday morning through Friday morning because of retreat, and otherwise the center will be closed. It will be open for wake up on Friday night, and Roshi Hogen and Roshi Hogen Bays will be giving the Dharma talk Sunday. That'll be their last kind of appearance to the whole Sangha. So again, thank you very much. Good night, everyone.